agus fáilte go trí seascad in programme ag BBC Alba ha dul go críos scéalach an bharrachd an is spórs na Alba. Is me Iona Ballantyne agus go mí tólaigh ra go bhfuil ceannard ball-coise an ban ag an SFA Fiona McIntyre callrooms in studio. Program na héiche nach bí mi hín agus Fiona torsúil imime cúspar an ball-coise an ban na meascan dáskipe heistríir son taiceil SWPL hin an deireadh. Clun sin cuideachadh fud sé a bhaiste bhí chluich ball-coise, Kirsty Oliphant agus an project éige Blossom Boxes ha cuideachadh a hafo imime. Agus ha Anna Rutherford a gíseoin mar a chláirín úne Slighe son a bhí roin Slighe Am Monadh a Jess. Fiona, welcome to 360.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to finally have you on after all this time.
I know, I'm on the famous red sofa at last.
I know, it is so good to have you, but I suppose because it's your first time on the show, it'd be really good to hear about you and your career and actually when your love of sport began and how you then got involved as a career. Yeah,
so I guess like most young girls, I grew up just loving sport, but football was the one sport that I always enjoyed playing. I remember playing from around 5 years old, so being in the playground at primary school and just joining in with the boys. And I think I was really lucky that my parents made it really normal that I played sport. So through my whole childhood, I played football and played at club level. And when I got to that age of leaving school and thinking about what I wanted to do, I didn't know what I wanted to do or what I wanted to be, but I knew I wanted to do something in sport and in football. So I went to Stirling Uni and studied sport, and from there I was really lucky and got some jobs in sport thereafter up at Aberdeen at the Sports Village. I was the events manager up there. I was also in at the Grampian Institute of Sport, and then I returned back down to Glasgow. And my first role with SWF was actually in a voluntary role on the board, which I really enjoyed, and I think I joined at that point that the game really evolved and grew, and that opportunity became available to go in as the first ever executive officer, and from there I've just been sort of engrossed in women's football for the last 4 years.
Could you ever have imagined when you were younger playing football that actually just how far a career in sport would have taken you, and especially in women's sport?
No, probably not, because there weren't that many obvious visible role models where you would think that is what I want to be, and certainly my approach was always just that I wanted to work in sport and I tried to get as many experiences as possible, and some of those experiences were voluntary, working for voluntary organisations as well, and that's how I started, I guess, at SWF as a volunteer. So it's really nice now to be in a role, and I do appreciate that it's a really privileged role as well, and with that comes a lot of responsibility because there aren't that many jobs for women in sport.
Because you did have quite a successful playing career too. I know you played with some of the Scotland internationals, or former Scotland internationals, some who still play now.
They were definitely better than me, so I'm probably clinging on to their success a little bit. Well, when I grew up, I played at Largs, and at that point Jo Glove was there, and she came in as a young player, and you could tell straight away she was a special, talented player, and she sort of accelerated her way through that national pathway. But at university, I played alongside Leanne Ross as well. We were a sort of striking duo at that time, so I can always pretend to myself that I helped her on her path to being a Scotland international, and obviously had great success as well at Glasgow City. So my own career was not particularly successful, but it was really nice that I met, and it's not just about how successful I've been, but I've met good people and friends for life as well.
How does it feel seeing them play and actually what they've gone on to achieve in their playing career too? You must be watching them and feel really proud.
Oh, it's amazing, particularly watching Leanne, because we're similar age. She's maybe slightly older than me, and you know, I retired quite a long time ago following an injury, so to see her still running about and playing at the level that she does, with the chance to then win the league again on Sunday this weekend, it's amazing, and you're proud to see, you know, the people that you've played alongside going on and having a career in football, and it's really nice to see.
And your time with Scottish women's football, I mean, like you said, you started as a volunteer and then you went on to work as a job. Even through that part of your career, you must have seen women's football develop so much in that time.
Oh, it's completely different to when I first started to when I left, and you probably don't take a lot of time to reflect when you're in the job. You're always looking at the next thing you want to do and the next thing you want to achieve. But when I was leaving, I did sort of look back and realised how far it's come from, you know, the number of players that are now playing virtually doubled in that time from 2014 when I joined the board until the time that I left. But also things like the Premier League, the number of professional players, there were maybe 1 or 2 at the very, very start, if that. And now I think at last count there was 72 professional players playing in the Premier League. So you realise how far it's come when you sort of look back, and you can see the growth that the game's had at all levels, at participation and at that performance end as well.
Well, tell us about your job now with the SFA as head of women's and girls football.
So it's a new role for me. Previously being at SWF, I was very much concentrated on the league and the clubs and the competitions. At the Scottish FA, it's a far wider remit, so essentially we'll be launching a new girls and women's strategy in the next few months, and my role is to deliver on that and to lead on the delivery of that strategy. But the remit is so wide because you've got a responsibility to work in the sort of participation end of the game. So you're trying to grow the number of young players. It might be 5-year-olds coming into play for the first time, but at the same time, you know, we're trying to enhance and develop the elite competitions and have successful national teams. So my remit also goes into that performance end. But off the pitch as well, you're always looking to get new commercial partners and also working on the governance side to make sure the game is well represented. So I guess in a nutshell, it's just about driving the whole game forward and taking it to the next level.
A lot that you're working on and a lot to achieve, but where would you like to see women's football in Scotland? What would be your goal for the next 5 or 10 years?
I think it's about accelerating the growth. We know the trajectory that the game is on, and we want to continue that. So if we're looking at the national team, the obvious target is to get back to major tournaments and get the team playing on that world stage. At the elite sort of end in the domestic leagues, we're looking to continue that trajectory of professionalising the league, increasing the sort of commercial revenues that's generated from that as well. But at participation level, it's about growing the game, making it more visible and ensuring that every young girl in Scotland has that opportunity to play football and is encouraged to do so, and that there's an option for them to do that locally, wherever it may be that they stay.
Great, well, it's very exciting to watch the growth of football. We will be coming back to the league again shortly. Yn blaen y se, hosi seann chluicheadair Dundee United Kirsty Oliphant sa carriage Carly Cook in immerse blossom boxes. Fa am sin cliideachadh y toirt bogsaichean becca li mescachach deireadh yn sóireachtain yn brain dogéine he fa fo ualach nio imagain.
Stewie gave you a stree leirslán changing as on Iona Ballantyne. Call the carriage Carly Cook, has shown chluicheadair Dundee United Kirsty Oliphant a Anna Rutherford McGing le blossom boxes. Project had touched box a cúram le Jeffrey Source Ruta na Brain, Dogania had a stree leirslán changing.
So the idea started, it was basically just a conversation that Carly and I had just one Sunday morning. Well, Carly and I met in hospital and we were just discussing the ward's self-soothe box and which items from it that we found most beneficial, and from that came the idea to make our own kind of self-soothe box with kind of a blend of items that we know had helped us and had helped others throughout that time. Our blossom boxes are aimed at people aged 12 and over, male and female. We've just started to do boxes for males as well. And yeah, they're for people that might find themselves struggling more than most at the moment, especially during this lockdown. I think so it's just, yeah, for people that are just maybe having a bit of a rough time at the moment.
Mar bhráiseach yn fráid, van a planich yn y blossom boxes gyma miniatach agus yn asgi y dosiach. A chwyd Kirsty's Carly amach gyda dynia fas chwmesal yn y bogsaichean, agus gyda na fwnach gyda'r gynnia, a cielchach gyda chorgaib y doi fyniachach ach gyarachach.
Well, all we did at the beginning, we self-funded it. So all we did was went onto the internet and bought what we thought we needed. We had discussed what we would like to go in them. So we just went on the internet and bought what we needed to buy, and that was it. But then upon request, we set up a GoFundMe page, which has actually already raised over £1,700. We've currently, I think our total is currently, it's just over 120 we've done, and that's in the space of just over 2 months. We didn't expect it to have such demand, but we thought they might be popular, especially with them being free during lockdown. yeah, no, it's been really good.
Han taich don project go harad fo coisnach ball-coise an ban, iddo fi sonrich yma.
Essentially, we actually just got a direct message on Twitter from Kirsty Oliphant just asking if we could possibly retweet what they were doing or follow them. It was a very, very basic request, and then when I looked at it, I looked a bit more what they were doing, and then I messaged Kirsty back and said, tell me a bit more, I really, really like this. So, you know, she explained obviously, and I'd heard of Kirsty, I knew she was a player, so, you know, for her to then tell me that her and her friend Carly were basically out of their own pocket, you know, creating these care boxes, then I just thought that was fantastic. You know, just such a selfless act that could actually bring so much to someone that receives that. So we wanted to support that, so we made a kind of, you know, a reasonably large cash donation to that through our charity, because I just felt, you know, what a brilliant idea, and you know, such a small thing that goes such a long way for someone that maybe needs a bit of support.
Yeah, the support we've had has been incredible. We've had teams like Glasgow City, our local community club deireadh, Musselburgh Windsor girls. So within the football community, we've had a lot of support, and out with that, yeah, the response has been brilliant. We've been working sort of weekends and evenings to get all the boxes out to folk that need them.
Ha Kirsty a crutching fel bwy a pandemic yd ara a haring go sláán changing, agus a sin van joulas eichge heen go kutramach, gewille harig lentingach, agus wil deunie a bring van hriplach.
I think a lot of people have been more affected by mental health issues during the lockdowns that we've had and things, and it's no surprise with the isolation and everything that goes along with lockdown. It's really no surprise that more people are kind of struggling more than usual. I think it's absolutely imperative that we do that we all support each other, as I say, especially during these times, and we keep having these conversations, because it's very important to talk about. I know it's difficult, but it's very important to talk about your mental health, and I think it is getting better. I think more people are having those discussions, which it can only be positive.
Ha Kirsty a gatricha groi a strí leir sláán changing as on emetach bliana, agus gas cúsin as dúle a gé a sewi droch arstachach, a kielchach na chunigi a cumul a dod di ball-coise, rute gan a vai chum mesalid, agus vai fain fylcha gas cúchach.
It's heartbreaking. It is. It's heartbreaking when, especially if you're forced to stop through injury. It really does hit you hard. I mean, I know I didn't know what to do with myself for the first few months. Didn't know what to do with myself, and then I found my mental health declining because of it, because I'm used to being part of teams all my life, and then suddenly I'm just not. And that was a huge thing for me.
A bharrachd blossom boxes a cruacha called di Carly. A Kirsty is son of a vanodrum le a seanching, agus I clechca gan joulasaice le sláán changing agus cuideachadh ball-coise, mar heich do gúniile.
The personal experience is hugely beneficial with the field that I'm in. It's hugely beneficial. Just being able to empathise with people more than somebody who doesn't have that personal experience could. A big part of it is being part of a team, and you always have to look out for each other, your teammates, because when you play football, your teammates are your family, because you train every week with them, you play every week with them. It's just an extended family, and I've taken that into my nursing as well. That, yeah, just teamwork and resilience as well. Resilience is a huge thing. The resilience that you learn through playing sport, because obviously you can't win every week, decisions don't go your way, you don't perform well and things like that, and I've taken that into my nursing as well, that resilience and able to bounce back from adversity and things.
Fiona, what an amazing initiative and such an important conversation, kind of all aspects of life.
I know, I'm actually in awe about what Kirsty's doing there. It's a really truly altruistic gesture on her part. I think you can tell it's something she's really passionate about, and she's got that lived experience, and the fact that she's taken that into her sort of new job but also trying to help other people. I just think it's something really inspirational, and I think the conversation around mental health has moved. More people are more open and speaking about it, but it's that next step about also being able to help people when they do open up, and you can tell it's something Kirsty's really passionate about.
And from a sport point of view, in terms of how Kirsty started, I know it's something you can kind of understand and relate to when she was talking about when you're in it and then suddenly it's out with your control, and it's a life change. It's different.
It's hugely different. I grew up playing football, as I said earlier, from 5 years old, and in a team environment from 8 years old. So I stopped playing through an injury as well at around 28 years old, and you lose that camaraderie for weeks and years, and then every part of your week is around your teammates, and it's built towards your fixture on a Sunday. You've got your training. They become really close friends, and you're part of this sort of unique group of people that are working together to play football on a Sunday. So when that suddenly gets taken away, and I think couple that with lockdown and COVID, I can only imagine how difficult that would be.
And you can see that's why something like Blossom Boxes is so important to help people who maybe need the help or don't know that they need the help. It's really good seeing actually somebody who featured in that VT, Laura Montgomery of Glasgow City. She's a friend of the show, and she's someone who is very forward thinking when it comes to football and mental health and making sure that player welfare is good.
I think football's so powerful. We know that it's not just about what happens on the pitch on a Sunday, and I think we see more and more clubs looking at that community arm aspect, and I think during COVID we saw that more than ever. You know, we saw football clubs out feeding their community and delivering medicines and supporting people with their mental health, and I think the power of football is something that we really need to harness because it can do so much good.
It can do good, and I suppose good that we'll see at the weekend is the final day of SWPL1 season, which is exciting because it's totally down to the wire now.
It's so many permutations, trying to remember it all, but it's so exciting, isn't it, to go to the final day, and we don't know who's going to win the league. There's also that competition for the Champions League places, which I think adds that little bit of edge. Looking at the fixtures, the top three probably are all going into the fixtures thinking we need to win. Rangers certainly need to win to have any chance of getting Champions League football. Celtic, if they win, it's in their hands to retain Champions League football, but at the same time there's that hope that they may actually be able to win the league. And I think Glasgow City, I don't know any team that would go into a game looking to draw, so they'll be looking to win as well. So having that on the final day of the season, it's so exciting, and we did kind of anticipate this at the start of the year, that it was going to be the most competitive league ever, but for it to come down to this final day and those teams to all be in the mix for those top two places, it's something I'm really looking forward to.
To predict that it could have been the most competitive season yet, but to actually be in it and for it to be happening and going down to Sunday, I mean, it just must feel totally different from what you thought at the start of the season to now, to going through it.
I know, to get to this point, I remember back at the league launch at the start of 2020, pre-COVID, there was a real buzz and excitement because obviously with Glasgow City, the reigning champions and the team to beat, Hibs, despite them going through a little bit of a transition period, they'd still retained a lot of their strong players, international players, and Rangers and Celtic obviously making big investments, so you felt that there was 3 or 4 teams that would beat each other. But probably what we didn't anticipate was Forfar also taking points off, you know, Celtic. Spartans having an exceptional season and really running teams really close in fixtures, so I think the whole league has just been really competitive and a great advert for our game in Scotland.
And we've seen a lot of progress too from the teams further down the table. I mean, Hearts and Motherwell, you can tell that as the season's gone on, they've kind of really come into themselves, and you can see their growth and development across the season too, which is it's good for next season with teams then coming up from SWPL 2.
That's it. I think they've got a lot of experience over the course of the season. When I look at Hearts, they seem to have a challenge in scoring goals, but they can actually be a really tight unit defensively, and you can see they're difficult to break down. Forfar can be the same. I think it's been able to do that over 90 minutes has been the challenge, and that's why maybe some of the results. But there's not, you know, one team sitting on 0 or 1 points. They've all been able to take points off each other, and the games have been competitive. And I think next season, looking at Premier League 2 coming up, I'm also really excited about that restarting. Aberdeen are obviously out in front by a few points at the moment, but the teams below that, Dundee United, Hamilton, Partick Thistle, even St Johnstone, I think there's only 4 points that separate them, so they'll all be really chasing that promotion space, and I think it'll be hard when Premier League 1 finishes on Sunday, but knowing that we've got Premier League 2 certainly softens the blow.
It's good that it's going down to the wire with SWPL 2, like you say, as SWPL 1 finishes and they start up again. But on Sunday, we've got Glasgow City playing Rangers and Celtic playing Motherwell, so the top 3 teams are in action around the sort of central belt area. Is it something that the trophy could be either way?
I've been here before at SWF actually when we've had a traditional helicopter Sunday, so I actually spoke to Lorna Cameron during the week at SWF, and there's no budget for a helicopter, so I think it's Transit Van Sunday we're calling it. But they'll be ready to make sure the trophy gets to where it needs to be on Sunday.
So we need to make sure we're not listening out for a helicopter.
No helicopter.
Look out for the van on the M8. But like we spoke about earlier, the Champions League spots, they are very lucrative now, aren't they? I mean, for the teams going for that second spot, Celtic currently sitting in second, that's still a huge place to finish.
It's a huge carrot for the clubs to be involved in the Champions League. In the first instance, just the prestige of being involved at that level of football, and a football intense testing yourself against the best nations in Europe, that's really exciting for players and clubs to be involved in. But UEFA have also announced increased investment into the Champions League, so the potential financial return for clubs is far more significant than it's ever been as well. So I think for us, having those two spaces, it's made the league, it's given it that little bit of extra edge going into the final day, because it's not just the Championship that we're playing for, and certainly Rangers will be incentivised by the prospect that they can still reach the Champions League, and they need to obviously go and win that fixture to give themselves any chance. But it's definitely created an extra dynamic that goes beyond just the Championship.
Totally, and very exciting that it's going down to the wire, so we know we'll have everyone tuning in on Sunday. Thank you. Slighe Am Monadh roi Anna Rutherford Slighe Am Monadh and a Jess Kiat is da vele jig agus kai eichke some unia sluje rev shasket is da uren uredar agus trichit se caimir-inntinn roin Anna ri tri shasket agus geishe goin mun trenig eichke agus na heveren coola kuch sarvachas.
Se cuairs fata costa go costa hamna Slighe Am Monadh chase. Tríchéad is 10 kilometer a gach. Atá se an pors fatric it costa sheer na Alba, Gunoaib it an costa near.
There's a race that's run on that route, and the first year it was due to be run, I thought, oh, I'll sign myself up. This is a huge challenge. And then 4 days before it was due to start, I found out I was pregnant with Kit, who is now 2, my wee boy. So I had to pull out. So there was a certain sense that I had some unfinished business there. And then the male record holder, a guy called Jack Scott, who's just a phenomenal runner, he got in touch with my husband Neil just after I'd given birth to our daughter Ella towards the end of this year, and said, oh, I'm going to have a crack at the male record, can you help? And so we did, and it sowed a seed. I thought, well, maybe I can have a go at this, but I couldn't fathom that it would be possible. I'd just given birth, and I thought, well, can I really do something like this? And then I thought, well, why not try it? Why not try? Because it was a dream of mine to do it. So I thought, well, let's try and pursue that dream.
As Joey Lenov a bhíaiche nu mías an runna gúlan, wat dói tréni úr ag Anna, is he fast cleachte the harichin boike.
I didn't really appreciate how much your body changes after having a baby, but everything is, your muscles are all, they're almost in a different place. And I think I read an article, and it's very true, that really from the top of your head to the tip of your toes, it changes. So my arch is completely flattened, for example, and your glute muscles completely forget how to fire. My feet are now a size bigger than they used to be. And so your body is, it's different, and so you need to then try and get used to and reacquaint yourself with your new and slightly different running form. So I had it as well, and I think it's quite common immediately after having a baby that you do end up with the odd niggle and the odd injury, because everything's just a little bit different to how it was.
Bij een route van een boy kereinig, ach bij een nagulante Anna a hinsing chiselachig, as you could Amazon pick a ripe, tron a koerst.
I mean, you can train your legs to run whatever distance they want. Training your mind is also, I think, incredibly important, because you're out for such a long time that if you start at that start line thinking, right, in 4 days' time I'm going to finish, it's just overwhelming. But if you're able to break it up into anything, I mean, I find that if I have something to look forward to in 5 miles, I can eat a jelly bean, lucky me. Or, I mean, it can be something that ridiculous. Or in a few miles, I'll see the support van, and in the support van there's a nice sleeping bag, and there's food, and there's people there, and seeing the runners at different points. I had a team of amazing friends who went above and beyond in terms of what they did for me, and seeing them was just, it just lifted me. And getting photos of the kids was just, I mean, it sent me over the edge a lot of the time, but it really lifted me. And just seeing a photo, it was like, well, that'll see me through the next 10 miles. So the mind is incredible. It's such a powerful thing, and it's so important to try and kind of stay focused. And during the worst and the hardest times, just remember that as long as you're still moving forward, then you're still moving forward, and you're still making progress.
Le chud dydh sa bhain dúlan, gas Anna boch agus lachtar na chuairst, ach fuchtaí I héine deireadh chun na laine.
I was struggling to keep food down. So just after the first night, I was being sick, and I was struggling really to eat a lot anyway. So the calorie deficit was huge. I think my Garmin said I burnt 25,000 calories. I probably consumed about 2, and not all of that stayed down. And that definitely contributed to fatigue, and I was shaking quite a lot. Even when it wasn't cold, I was shaking with what felt like cold. And that was really, really difficult to try and reset yourself. Probably the hardest thing though, and I didn't anticipate this at all, was the lack of sleep. So I knew I'd be tired, but I kind of left it there in my planning. I thought, I'll be tired, of course I'll be tired. But actually, my body completely shut down after the second night. It was the middle of the night on the second night, and I physically couldn't open my eyes. So I was closing my eyes to blink, and I physically couldn't open them again. And it was the oddest sensation. And we tried food, and that didn't work. And then we realized that actually it's tiredness. And so in the end, I slept on a tuft of grass for 4 minutes, and that seemed to sort me out. That 4-minute power nap is the way forward. But it's incredible that lack of sleep has such an impact. And actually, in a way, I'm silly. I should have realised, but I just didn't appreciate how much of an impact it would have.
Le chud dydh sa bhain dúlan, gas Anna boch agus lachtar na chuairst, ach fuchtaí I héine deireadh chun na laine.
Oh, I was just in tears because I saw the kids, and all my family and friends were there ringing cowbells and making an absolute racket. And you've got Kit who's running towards me, and having Ella put into my arms. It was just the most incredible feeling to have my family there and my friends there. And actually, in a way, I just couldn't believe I'd done it. You know, I saw the coastline. You're running around that last bit of coast, and then you see that final finishing straight. And it was almost an out-of-body experience. I just couldn't believe I was there, because I'd seen the other coast a few days before, and it's like, how did I get here? And it's really only been since I've started to kind of recover that more things come back to me, because a lot of it actually, whilst I was doing it, was a bit of a blur.
Ha Anna mochtal it an ruúta na haid colannach, agus hain dáchas cláineann eile a bhrosnachach, gus go bí fisacha go bur gaibh na hamasan ach go ríing.
I was so desperate to show that you can achieve your dreams, you can achieve anything that is possible. And if I managed to show Kit and Ella that whatever they want to do in their life, we will help them do it. And if they have a dream, they can go for it. Then that is a huge tick in the box for me. And it's really important, because just because you've had kids, or because you're a mum, or because you work full time, or whatever it is you do, that doesn't limit anything else you might want to do in life. And actually, I did this and was able to achieve this because of the kids, not in spite of them. I feel really proud, because the female record is now within 7 hours of the male record, and women are levelling the playing field over the long distances, definitely. I mean, Jasmine Perez took the spine record outright last year, and that, I think, is something to be celebrated.
Wow, what an amazing story, and it just goes to show you can do anything if you put your mind to it.
I actually can't believe what I've just watched. I think even physically to do what she's done is incredible, but I found the mental bit really interesting as well, about how she set little targets as she went along the way to try and help her get to that final goal. But it just shows you that what you can achieve, and it never ceases to amaze me athletically what people can do when they set their mind to it. And seeing her speaking about her family at the end and how they were an inspiration and she did it because of them and not in spite of them, I think that's really inspiring for any mothers and people out there that think that when they have a family it maybe prohibits what they can do. So hats off to her, actually in absolute awe at what she's achieved there.
So am I, and it's emotional as well, especially like you were saying with the family when she's running to them at the end. I mean, the overwhelming feeling that she must have had at that point is probably one you'd never experience again. I know,
to run that distance for that length of time, and I think the lack of sleep must eventually, you must just lose all idea of what you're doing. It's just a case of putting one foot in front of the other. But I think to get to the end point and see your family waiting for you, I think that must have been really emotional for her, and you can tell it was something that meant a lot to her to have her family waiting for her at the end.
And there's something to be said about the 4-minute power nap. I don't know how to cope with that, but there's something.
A 4-minute power nap and then 3 days of running, basically. I actually just can't believe that that's even humanly possible. But like she said there, if you put your mind to things, things are possible, and setting those small goals along the way are obviously what sort of inspired her as she's gone. So just amazing.
Yeah, totally amazing. And a few other people who haven't run that distance or had so little sleep, but some people in football who will be feeling that sense of pride are some of the Scotland players who just had their first call up. We've got Christy Grimshaw, Brianna Westerhup, Leah Eddy and Eartha Cummings. I mean, for them, they must be delighted.
I know there's probably no greater pride than representing your country, and I know all the players are really excited about getting that opportunity. And it's interesting because they've all taken different paths to get there. You know, Leah's had a great season within the domestic league and Player of the Year at Hibs, whereas Christy's taken her own path and gone abroad and has now had a great season over at AC Milan. And I think it's really inspiring for young players to know that there are different paths to get there, and that you will be watched and you will be noticed. And there's obviously a few injuries in the squad which have kind of provided that opportunity as well. But yeah, they must be so excited to have that opportunity, and it's a great opportunity for the coaching staff to have a look at those players in the environment alongside the more experienced players, and to hopefully get a chance to see them in a match situation.
It'll be great for the players in SWPL1 as well to see players in their league getting their first call up with Leah and Brianna. At least the teams will know actually they can do it. I can work hard and achieve that too. Yeah, and you've also got Lee Alexander in there, Lisa Robertson as well. So there's a number of players from the Women's Premier League in Scotland that have been selected, and I think it does show that if you're performing at a high level in Scotland, then you can and will be selected for the national team. So hopefully it encourages those players that are maybe on the cusp of that selection to know that if they continue to work hard and perform, then that opportunity is a possibility for them. No, it's great. It's very exciting, and it'll be great to watch them in action, because I know the headline performance target for the national team is to qualify for major tournaments. Unfortunately, that didn't happen with the recent Euros. I know that was disappointing, especially having reached the previous Euros and the World Cup. How important are these qualifiers now? They're really important, and I've said this a number of times, that qualifying for major tournaments is such a privilege and a great opportunity for the players to go and play on that world stage, but the impact it has across the whole game is massive. So when I think back to the World Cup in 2019, the growth in participation was around 19% that year alone, and we'd never seen growth at that level. We've always had that sort of consistent growth in participation, but also just the number of people that were interested in watching girls and women's football grew massively over that period when we were represented at major tournaments. So the impact on qualifying goes beyond just the team in that one tournament. So it's really important that we give the team the best chance of succeeding, and we're really hopeful that they'll go into this campaign positive and we can qualify for the World Cup. Well, there's been quite a change since the last World Cup. Players have retired, like we just said, new players have been called up. There's also a change in manager, or a manager still to be appointed. So it's quite a different Scotland, a new look Scotland. Yeah, and I think that's something we should be excited about, because it's almost a new era. We've still got some of the real top quality players that we had that went to the World Cup and the Euros
a couple of them been selected for Team GB just this week as well. And the manager, it's an opportunity for a new manager to come in and really inspire the players and get them back to the levels they were at when they were qualifying for major tournaments. So I can certainly see it as an exciting time, and speaking to some of the players as I have, they are really motivated and excited to get back out playing for Scotland and delivering results, because I think they know themselves that the results weren't quite what we wanted when it came to the last qualifying campaign.
What sort of qualities should this manager have to really bring the Scotland team forward and ensure qualification for the World Cup happens?
There's a mixture of things. There's obviously the coaching experience itself and being able to set up a team and be successful. I think you've also got to be mindful at international level that you don't get as much time with the players. I think Steve Clark was speaking about that just recently himself, that it takes a little bit of getting used to not having that day-to-day contact with the players and less time to get your messages across. So you're looking for someone that's got that ability in that short space of time to transfer the messages across to the players and get them performing at the level that returns successful results.
And I just need to ask Fiona, before we finish the show today, for you and your job in the SFA, how would you sum up your time and what are you looking forward to coming up?
I think for me, launching the new strategy is really exciting. It's the first time I've ever had a strategy for girls and women's football in Scotland, so I'm really excited about getting the strategy out. And then it's really about elevating the whole game to the next level. We spoke earlier about the trajectory we're on being really positive, but how do we expedite that growth and how do we take the whole game to the next level? And I'm really excited to be part of that and lead on trying to take the girls and women's game to the next level.
Great. Well, we love watching the growth of the game here, so we are looking forward to seeing how it goes in the next couple of years. But thank you so much for joining us this week, Fiona. I'm sure we'll have you back on in next season.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bí an program bhharrachd sin stra ac yn gweud nach h-iomairt yn Eurovius yn lw clasica Paralympic Robin Love Colorroom. Jan cínteach go bhfuil si bh lent an trí seascad YouTube agus scéisiomh an program bhharrachd acin iPlayer BBC. Agus cuineadh cuideachadh go bhfuil an SWPL a tín go ceann an deireadh cheachcainsa agus bína gemacin beor fiag a BBC na mes Glasgow City in Rangers de Donich BBC Alba. Ach chun nach cheachcain mar sin leibh an dras.